Good.
Okay. The June 23rd, 2026 Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting is hereby called to order. We have a submittal of exhibits for the record, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jason Halterman, Assistant Director of Planning and Zoning. I would like to submit the following exhibits for tonight's record. They are the Platte County Zoning Order of 1990 as amended, the Platte County Subdivision Regulations of 1992 as amended, Platte County Land Use Plan, Platte County Roads Master Plan, all PowerPoint presentations with aerial map site plans and plat shown here tonight, as well as the Board of Zoning Adjustment bylaws.
Thank you. Would it be prudent to swear everyone in at one time, you think, up front?
I'd wait till they come up and then.
Okay.
Yeah, that way we can get who they are and then make sure they match their speaker card.
So if you're going to speak tonight, you do need to fill out a speaker card, which Jason has. So agenda item number 3.
Agenda item 3 is a variance request concerning 3.02 acres located at 7810 Northwest Hampton Road, which is also Highway K. Jake Wilson is seeking this variance to Article 2, Section 400.230, subsection D2A of our zoning order, which establishes the minimum side yard setback requirement of 6.5 feet in the RMD, which is Residential Multiple Dwelling Zoning District. He's seeking this variance in order to construct a room addition consisting of a pantry and laundry room and a third-car garage onto his existing single-family dwelling. Single-family dwelling is a permitted use in the RMD zoning district. He wishes to construct an 18-foot by 32.33-foot addition onto the north side of his dwelling. The applicant has stated the property in question is very narrow. Lot size not ordinarily found on adjacent properties. The property is over 3 acres in total size. However, the property line to the north of the current dwelling is less than 21 feet. This condition was not caused by the property owner or the applicant. The applicant has also stated the current floor plan of the dwelling has no dedicated pantry space and very minimal space for a laundry room. Current occupants have 3 young children, so additional food storage and laundry capacity is desperately needed for a young and growing family. Additionally, they stated a separate and secured third-car garage would allow for safe storage of cleaning products, household pesticides, and other items required to be out of the reach of young children. According to the site plan that was submitted with your staff report, that proposed addition would end up sitting 2.9 feet from that side property line. Therefore, he's asking for a variance of 3.6 feet from that side yard setback requirement in the RMD zoning district. To get your bearings, this is the aerial view of the subject properties and surrounding zonings. We are in southern Platte County. This is K Highway. This is Highway 152, Highway 45, K Highway and Hampton Road. This is the property outlined here in yellow. This is the close-up view of the property. You can see that it is very narrow. And the dwelling sits right in the middle of that lot. Basically, the shadowed area is the proposed location of the room addition. This is the site plan that was submitted with your staff reports showing the room addition and distance from that property line. The applicant also submitted some photos of the property and the proposed area where it would go. You can see it butts up to densely treed properties there to the north. Upon visiting the site, staff observed the following conditions: that property 3 acres. It is very narrow. It's only 113 feet wide, but it's 1,100 and almost 1,200 feet deep. It has an existing driveway access on the Hampton Road. We did not travel down the driveway. The property is heavily wooded. You cannot see the dwelling from the road. I mean, it's completely hidden. The applicant does have letters in support, and they were included in your staff reports from both the property owner to the north and the south. So that goes a long way for a variance like this. They were included in your staff report. Approving the variance would allow for the construction of the proposed addition in conformance with our zoning order. The applicant is seeking a variance of 3.6 feet from that minimum side yard setback at 6.5 feet in RMD. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions of staff? Is the applicant present? Could you please step up to the microphone? Please state your name and address.
Jake Wilson.
Yep.
7810 Northwest Hampton Road.
Ooh, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the true self you got? Thank you. So how long have you owned the property for?
We moved in 2018.
2018, okay. And it doesn't look like any of your neighbors, at least, have written anything opposed to it. Have they visited with you?
Yeah, I met with both, and actually I got one neighbor to the south, and actually the neighbor that my property abuts to they were out of town. They wrote a letter of support, and actually they got the agenda for this meeting. She actually wrote a handwritten letter on this as well as the letter that she submitted with the packet. So you guys want to see this? They're totally supportive of it. So they kind of see our situation and the need for the addition on that.
Okay. I don't necessarily need to see it, but, so,
And
okay.
the big thing is you can't see no other, from the road, no other occupant, neighbor, completely hidden from view from anybody else. So.
Good. Are there other questions of the applicant?
No.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience to speak for or against the application? Okay. Step up to the microphone, please. Please state your name and address.
My name is Gerald Hoffman, Hoffmann. We are at 7808 Northwest Hampton. We're the immediate neighbor to the south.
Please raise your right hand. We have to, or do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. So you're the neighbor to the north?
To the south.
South, okay.
I don't see any particular problem with the proposed addition to the property. I'm familiar with their family situation, and yes, indeed, they could use the extra room. Kids do kind of spread out a little bit, requiring much laundry and extra storage for all the things needed to raise kids. Yeah, I see no problem with it.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker?
But thank you.
Nope. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience to speak for or against the application? Any other questions or comments?
I know.
So we'd be seeking a motion to grant the variance as submitted.
I'd move that we go ahead and grant that variance.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of granting the variance, those opposed, 5-0, the variance passes.
Agenda item 4 is a variance request concerning 2.5 acres located at 19255 Lane Tree Drive. And before I start, I'd like to remind you, you had exhibit 4-2, which was a letter submitted from Mr. and Mrs. Mason, next door neighbors, in opposition to this request, but it was provided to you prior to you getting here this evening. Conyer Hahn is seeking a variance to Article 2, Section 400.140, subsection D3 of our zoning order, which establishes the minimum rear yard setback requirement of 50 feet for accessory structures in the RE, which is Real Estate Zoning District. This property is currently zoned Real Estate's PUD. It's a planned unit development, which it consists of a lot within the Lane Tree Lakes. Lane Tree Lakes adopted the RE setbacks for their PUD. PUDs allow you to do that. In fact, we actually had a similar request at last month's meeting. The applicant is seeking a variance from that 50-foot setback in order to construct a 40 by 60 outbuilding in the southeast corner of the property. The applicant has stated the HOA requires all detached structures to be 100% behind the house. He also stated the septic tank is directly behind the house and the lateral lines are to the southwest of the house, causing the only open ground to be the southeast side of the house. According to the submitted site plan, that proposed outbuilding would sit 10 feet from that rear southern property line. The applicant is seeking a variance of 40 feet from the 50-foot minimum rear yard setback for an accessory structure in the Real Estate Zoning District. Get your bearings. We're in the middle of Platte County. This is I-29. This is the Camden Point exit E Highway. It runs to the east. Lane Tree Drive intersects with E Highway, runs to the south. This is the property here outlined in yellow. It is the very rear of this subdivision. This is a close-up view of the property. This is the site plan that was submitted with your staff report showing the proposed setbacks. This is kind of aerial view the applicant submitted of his property and kind of an aerial view of the site plan where he would like to propose. The red area is an additional driveway that he would be installing to access the outbuilding. Upon visiting the site, staff observed the following conditions. Property contains an existing dwelling located at 19255 Lane Tree Drive. The dwelling sits above Lane Tree Drive. The property rises up from Lane Tree Drive. It slopes from the south down to Lane Tree Drive on the north. It also slopes from the west to the east, so it kind of dips down to the east there. The driveway access is in the northeast corner of the lot. It's a concrete surface, accesses the side of the dwelling. The applicant, like I stated, would be adding driveway surface to access the proposed building. The property backs up to 14.37 acres of private open space, which is owned by the Lane Tree Lakes HOA. This tract gives the impression of a greater rear yard setback, but it is a separate tract, not owned by the applicant. Approving the variance would allow the construction of the outbuilding in conformance with our zoning order. The applicant is seeking a variance of 40 feet from the 50-foot minimum rear yard setback requirement for an accessory structure in the real estate district. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions of staff? What's the side yard setback requirement? I know it's as presented 35 feet, but what's the
15.
15?
Yeah. Yep.
Are there any other questions of staff? Is the applicant present? Please step forward. Ooh, please state your name and address.
Conyer Hahn, 18900 Elmgrove Road, Potsy, Missouri.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Oh, thank you. So we had one of these somewhat recently. I think we did a 20-foot variance on in the last couple months. And what's the topography as you start to go, I guess you'd say, towards kind of the west?
So from where the driveway is, there's a rock wall that goes around the side of the property, around the radius of the driveway, and it continues to fall down towards the where the structure will be presented. So from the road, the structure will be minimum able to be seen. From as you're looking at this picture, the left to the right, the property falls towards the right drastically. The reasoning that we are requesting this is we are in final negotiations to purchase this house. We're not in negotiations. We are closing on the 30th of this month. We were supposed to close on the 2nd. It got pushed to the 9th, then it got pushed to the 19th, and now it has been pushed to the 30th due to a septic system being waiting to be put in due to rain that's been pushed. The current lateral lines are where that building sits. The new set of lateral lines is to the left of that 39.97 measurement. That is when we originally looked at the house, that is the location that I was wishing to build the building. Once the septic system, their engineering of it and everything completed, that is the location of the lateral lines. Directly behind the house in that darker green area in that location is where the current septic tank sits. So lines will run up to the existing lateral lines. Based off of what I can interpret, the HOA covenant, which I have a copy here, I'd be happy to pass out. Based off of what I can interpret that, I have not, because I do not technically own this house, I have not been able to have conversations with the board or the design review committee, which this would still have to go through and be approved by the HOA, design review committee. In this, it states that you have to, the auxiliary structure may be built in the rear yard. So that is where I am interpreting, but based off what I am interpreting, that would mean it would be behind the house, not next to the house, because I would consider that side yard or in front of the house, front yard. So that is kind of our gist of it. I took a ruler, drew it across the back of the house, and made sure that I was behind the rear setback of the house.
So, wait, so you don't currently own the house you're asking for a variance on?
So I have permission from the current owners that they have been notified prior to turning in my variance application. I was set to close on the second. My variance application went in based off of me closing on the second. So yes, by the time I stepped into this meeting, I would have owned the house for 20 days. Due to the septic system being delayed in installation, we have since done addendums to the contract to push 3 consecutive times we've pushed. The septic system is being installed as of today. There's hopefully supposed to be done by the end of this week for us to close on the 30th. So my request to the board would be if this is to pass, I understand that Jason is not going to be able to finalize and file everything on record. He would be able to hold it until I was able to prove a deed that I own the piece of property to finalize the amendment to the tract. So I understand it would be contingent on that.
Okay.
And that new structure would be just right below that area that slopes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. So I've, during our inspection process, I had our professional that does all of my dirt work come and look at it during the inspection process. That's where we determined that this is potentially the location that we would have to have. It is on top of the old septic system. I've got approval I've discussed it with the health department to ensure that once they decommission that lateral line and that septic system, that a building can be built on top of the old lateral lines. Obviously, when we start doing dirt work, all of those are going to be removed, but we have had discussions with the health department and dirt work professional.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I do have a question. How common is the outbuildings in your subdivision? houses?
So I took a screenshot of the Homes Association of the current aerial. What was that? So here's a map of the whole entire subdivision. There's numbers on each location that have around that subdivision that have a detached structure or a shed that is on their property. If granted, I will be the 8th out of 16 homes that have a detached structure. As you can see, the neighbor to the north of us, which they're here, did also build a detached structure.
Who owns the property now?
Dean
Krug?
Dean Packer. When we filed, or whenever I turned in the application, we let the realtor know prior to turning in the application. I had my realtor let theirs know that we were planning to turn this in and that it would be completed after closing. And he responded with, thank you for the letting him know. And that again, stating that this would have to go through the design review committee of the HOA. So he was made aware prior to me submitting anything.
So the most realistic thing we've got here is the ALIT survey, which if you're doing a little bit of thumbnail sketch, looks like there's quite a bit of room between the back of the house and the front corner of the structure. Based on the 10-foot to the back, just kind of looking up that way. I don't know if there's any movement to potentially consider moving it up a little closer where it's not a
Yeah,
10-foot.
I understand. And this is where, I'm 100% open to what you would also require in this. 10 foot is my dream of it. That gives me enough room. There is this. Here's the picture.
Yeah, thank you.
From the back property, looking at the back of the house, you can see from that rock wall that it does drastically drop off and run away from that rock wall down to where we pose it. So shoving it further back allows for access of the driveway to be done, allows for, dirt work to be consistent. But with that, if I know prior, just up the street, there was a 20-foot variance given to go to 20 foot. If that's the
I think it was to go to 30 foot.
Go to
So
30 foot, okay.
it'd be a 20-foot variance off the
If
50.
that is what is given, then obviously I will have to make do with that. That is, I think, believed to be feasible. This is just, if you want to turn in a variance, I guess you shoot for the dream and work around what you need to do.
Well, and you'd have to go on record of making a request to the
Request
change
to
in the
change,
variance
yeah.
application. We can't say,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's fine. And if that's what needs to be done, then
Pass it down this one.
You just have to agree to it.
You'd have to agree to it. So, which is what I'm hearing you saying, but just to be clear, we can't
no, I understand.
stay, we
You
can't.
can't say you're doing this and this and this.
Yep.
It's a yes or no. I understand.
That's why I asked about the 15 foot, because you could either, which you wouldn't have to change the juxtaposition of it either.
So the current design has that roughly 27 foot from the front corner to the side yard. So I am, almost double the minimum off of the side yard. It is just the backyard that we are going against, and that is owned by the HOA. It's not another dwelling that I'm backing towards.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
I guess the bottom line would be, would you agree to a 30-foot rear yard setback over a 10 or a
We-
20-foot, excuse me?
We've set that
So it'd be
precedence
a-
previous, correct?
What?
We've set that precedence. previous.
Well, that's the last one we approved.
Right.
And the
Is it-
last one.
It was a
yes,
20-foot variance, so it'd be a
Right.
30-foot setback, if you're agreeable to
Yes.
that. Are there any other questions of the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone in the audience to speak for or against the application? Please step forward. Please, or can you step to the microphone? Sorry. Well, maybe that's a microphone too. I've never seen anybody stand up with it. Please state your name and address.
Leslie Mason, 19305 Plain Tree Drive.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. And you're the one that wrote the letter.
I'm sorry,
You're the one that wrote the letter.
I am.
Okay. So feel free to,
So for 16, we bought this house in 2010, and for 16 years, we have had the view of the green space. We live in lot 9, we live in lot 8, which is north of their property. We don't have a lot of green space of our own because of the woods in the back and then the trees in the front. So this is our green space. Our addition was built with a lot of green space. And this is the only green space we have. While I don't have an opposition, and let me state, I hate starting out meeting our neighbors this way, it sucks. But while we don't have a lot of green space, that is what we enjoy. And that is one of the reasons why we bought our property, was because of that view. And if you look at our deck, and I also submitted a piece with the line that went from the middle of our deck back to the green space and how that building is obstructing that view. I am also a board member of the HOA, and I want to address what Connor was talking about. We kind of talked about this a little bit. We met outside. In the back, it says, on the statement, it says, a DRC approved and per county code requirement, unattached buildings of accessory use to the dwelling may be erected in the rear yard. It does not say shall be, it says may be. We, in 2011, built our 3-car detached garage on the side of our yard. And I understand that they're moving the septics around, and it doesn't give him a lot of options, but there are other options. I talked to the people with the permission of the crews today. I talked to the people putting in the septic, and there is west of where the lateral lines will be is an option to put a building back in the left-hand corner, my left-hand corner down and below, would be an option, which would
Well-
not obstruct our view.
Where are you compared to the 39.97? Because we're seeing analysis.
Where am I talking about?
Yeah, where are you telling?
So I live up north.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, so right there would be one option. On the west side of the house, keep going up, would be another option. Now, when they put the lateral lines in, they have what's called a reserve lateral line. So that if they ever have any problems with what they're doing now, the reserve, they could have a place for a reserve with another pump. I did ask him if there was any other place that they could put that, and he said, yes, they could put it down lower in the back behind if they needed to do that. That's correct. So with that, I want to say that we have a right to enjoy our green space, and this would definitely block it. Number two, I think it's important to our property value. I mean, we bought the lot based on that view. So if we ever sold it, it would be beneficial to us. And then the other thing is, I don't know what type of building this is. It's a big building. Is it a pole barn? I'm not sure what it is. So with that intent, I would hope that you would delay this until the DRC could get a look at this and say, because from my understanding, talking to Connor, he wants to build a pole barn. I'm not sure a pole barn would be acceptable. It's all the structures, all the outbuildings that are there now are garages. And everybody is in compliance with exception of one neighbor, and his is further down in the corner, in a different lot. So, as far as the driveway goes, we kind of talked about that, and I think we're okay with that. But again, there's just insufficient evidence or insufficient knowledge of what that building is. And it's pretty big, and we can't see the green space.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but I don't think we have any purview over what's being constructed as much as just the setback.
That's right.
Right.
So,
But if you
Correct.
allow
which
that,
and we don't overlap with the
That's correct.
DRC. So they may shoot the whole thing down. They may approve it. But
Correct.
that's what we
and
have
I'm trying
no.
to save them from having to deal with this, because I think it's putting the cart before the horse
Mm.
as far as allowing this. And like I said, we just met here just a little bit ago, and they're very nice, and I hate this, but you know, it's our property and it's our view and it's what we've enjoyed for 16 years, and it will hinder our view.
Well, and the most facts we have are this ALIT survey, which it would appear it could still probably be constructed within our standards without much of a variance being requested, which would still obstruct your view, but that's not what we're here.
Well, but there are other options.
Mhm.
There are two other options, from my understanding from the septic guys today.
Ooh, are there any questions for the speaker?
I don't have any.
Ooh, thank you for speaking.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
You speak, I do need the, before you leave, the yellow card.
Yeah, she did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she did.
And I'm assuming, just to make it clear, I mean, he can apply for this even though he doesn't own the property. He's got a real estate contract.
Yeah.
It's
you can.
bona fide.
And, you know, even the variance there, doesn't mean he has to build it in that exact location. If it worked on that side, and they come later and figure that out, he can still use the 20-foot on that side.
Correct. We're not in charge of the placement or.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in the audience to speak for or against the application? Ooh. Any other questions or comments?
No, I don't.
It appeared he was amenable to a variance of 20 feet versus 40 feet. Which would be the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 20-foot variance.
A motion, and a second.
I'll second it.
Any other comments? All those in favor of granting the variance? Those opposed? So the variance passes.
Yes.
Okay. John?
Now, this next item, I've got a future family member here that would create a conflict of interest for me, so I'll be stepping down for this item number 5. So
Hmm.
Well, so sure.
Okay. So what we're gonna do this evening, we're gonna have organization of speakers. So if we have an organized group that's gonna be here, they're gonna have a 20-minute time allotment. Anybody else that's on the other side of the table is gonna have a 20-minute time allotment as well. And then if you're here unaffiliated with a group, you'll be allowed a few minutes. The goal is, no matter how many people are speaking tonight, that we want to hear new evidence from the successive person. We're simply here to talk about what was appealed, which is the administrative official's interpretation. That's what we're here to talk about tonight and the scope of the matter. So that's where we're at.
You ready for me?
Yep.
Daniel Erickson, the Director of Planning and Zoning for Platte County. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge for the record that in addition to the PowerPoint presentation, there's several other exhibits have been submitted to you all. They are exhibits 5.2 through 5.6, including some information provided by the applicant and a letter from Mr. John Carter, and a packet that was delivered here tonight.
And if you don't have to stay, you're
Yeah,
free
I
to,
would.
welcome to exit if you've already had your agenda item heard.
Yeah.
Or you can stay around.
Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
And I will, my intent here is, obviously we have prepared a staff report. You've got a copy of that staff report. I'm going to summarize that staff report as quickly as I can and as simply as I can. So, the background, Lori Lewis is the applicant. Mrs. Lewis has filed an appeal of administrative officials' interpretation of the existing special use permit for a self-storage facility located in the highway commercial zone. So what does that mean? So under Article 7, Section 400-720 of the zoning order, it outlines the powers granted to this board, to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So there's 3 powers granted to the board. 1 is the power to grant variances, which you are very familiar with. You just did one. 2 is the power to approve or not approve a request for special exception, which is kind of a rare situation, very rarely comes up. And 3 is the power to make a determination as it relates to an interpretation of the code. Specifically, it states under Section 400-720 that the board shall hear and decide appeals where it is alleged that an error in law in any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by an administrative official in the enforcement of this order being the zoning order or the subdivision regulations. And furthermore, it says the board therefore has the power to reverse or affirm in whole or in part, or may modify the order, requirements, decisions, or determinations appealed from, and may, in making such order, have all the powers of the official from whom the appeal is taken. So let's skip forward a little bit. Some of the background. Okay, Mrs. Lewis, Lori Lewis, has filed this appeal.
And the appeal is twofold, in two specific items. First, there's a provision, which I'll get into in a second, in the zoning order as it relates to special use permits that refers to if something's not done within a 12-month period, the special use permit expires. She is making the claim that staff's interpretation that provision had been met and thus proceeded was an error. And she's also making the claim that the building permit, which was issued, did not substantially conform to the approved site plan, that there was a discrepancy and therefore it was an error to issue that purpose. So those are the two interpretations that is before you tonight: the expiration clause and the building permit for the site plan. So the clause in hand it states the following: a special use permit shall expire automatically without revocation unless a building permit to effectuate the use is obtained within 12 months after the planning commission's decision granting the special use permit is filed with the enforcement officer. A building permit is not required. If a building permit is not required, the special use permit shall expire unless a substantial evidence of the use is filed with the enforcement officer within 12 months, within a 12-month period. The special use permit, including all uses in a building, structures, or land in connection with thereof, shall expire if the special use shall cease or be abandoned for more than 12 consecutive months for any reason. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of this property and try to kind of describe the timeline, because the timeline matters here. First of all, this has been going on for quite some time. Mrs. Kernershield under CKC Holdings, I think was the business, first has applied to develop a self-storage facility on this 30-acre property 3 separate times. The first application was submitted back in 2017. A second application was submitted in 2020, and a third application was submitted in 2021. Those first 2 applications were ultimately turned down by the boards. I think one of them may have gotten to the courts. I think the second one was submitted, ultimately withdrawn. The third one, which was submitted to the Platte County Planning Department on November 1st, 2021, that application was submitted to filed. It was heard by the Platte County Planning Commission December 1st, 2021, and approved. That third application actually represented a pretty significant changes to the first 2 prior applications. So ultimately, even though the Planning Commission and the BZA had turned down prior applications, this one was approved. Mrs. Lewis and other petitioners, as is their right, appealed that decision of the Planning Commission to this board, the Board of Zoning Adjustment. That happened and was heard on May 4th of 2022. This board, after conducting a hearing, also approved the special use permit, affirming the Planning Commission decision and further approving it. Mrs. Lewis and the petitioners appealed that decision of the Board of Zoning Adjustment to the Circuit Court of Platte County, 6th Judicial Circuit. Briefs were filed, a hearing was held in front of a judge. The Circuit Court affirmed the BZA's approval. This happened on February 28th, 2023, so many months later. Mrs. Lewis and the petitioners then appealed that decision, which is their right, to the Missouri Court of Appeals, Western District. Briefs were filed, arguments were made before the court, and that court issued its ruling in April 24th of 2024. There were no further appeals filed. So as far as staff is concerned, the final decision relating to the ability to operate a self-storage facility on this property was ultimately approved in April of 2024. So since then, some of the additional timeline is the prior owner, Mrs. Kernershield, CKC Holdings, sold the property to Mr. Barman. Barman Properties LLC, which I think eventually became CKBR Holdings LLC. Same person, Mr. Barman. That happened in January 25. In February 25, Mr. Barman submitted a request for a land disturbance permit, which was granted. That land disturbance permit, which we view as a type of building permit, and thus extinguishing the expiration clause, was within the 12-month period, and basically allowed the applicant to proceed with site prep, grading, and so forth.
When was that?
That was in February 25th of 2025.
Okay.
So April to February, that's what, 8 months? 8 months after the court hearing. In August of 24, the applicant finally submitted paperwork for the building permit for the structures. In February 2026, this land disturbance permit's only good for a year, so they got it renewed for another year. In March of 2026, the building permit for the structures of phase 1 was issued, and on April 10th of 2026, this appeal that we're considering tonight was filed. So regarding the appeal, staff submits the following arguments against their request. I'll go into more details, but they are as follows. One, the land disturbance permit, which is a permit that allows grading, it allows storm sewer install, it allows parking lots to be built, it allows detention basins to be built. It allows basically all the site prep necessary to do a commercial development, was issued within the 12-month provision. Two, we will argue that this appeal, as it relates to the expiration, was not timely filed. There's a 3-month window to file an appeal of an interpretation. And I'll go into detail, and we'll argue this appeal was filed approximately 9 months after that 3-month window had closed. 3, the special use permit had a condition, and that condition said that the special use permit shall be good and valid for a period of 35 years. And that is obviously a conflict between a condition that says it's valid for 35 years and another provision that says it expires. And finally, there's part of the request makes the argument that somehow the building permit didn't conform to the approved site plan, and we would just largely completely reject that argument. It actually very much conforms to the approved plan. So here's the provision, the expiration. I'll call this the expiration provision again. It talks about a 12-month period. It talks about building permit. I will note it's a minor point, but in ordinance writing, if a term's capitalized, like for example, planning commission is capitalized, enforcement officer is capitalized, that means there's a definition that specifically is being referred to in that provision. And here, building permit is not capitalized. Building permit is a generic term, as it relates to, like, for example, a demo permit is a building permit. Electrical upgrade is a building permit. A land disturbance permit, it doesn't have the word building permit in it, but it's certainly part of construction. So our argument is that building permit includes land disturbance permit. So what is the intent of this provision? In our opinion, the intent of this provision is that if a person applies for a special use permit and completely abandons it, they leave the country, they just got it approved and walked away from it, that ultimately it would expire. So how does that relate in the context of this situation? Did Mr. Barman, did Mrs. Commercial walk away from this? The answer is no. This project has been active and ongoing since it's been approved. So even prior to Mr. Barman purchasing the property, Mrs. Kernershield had a grading permit. She actually applied to even kind of before the final ruling of the Court of Appeals, she got a building permit to demo an old farmhouse that's on the property. Mr. Barman met with staff prior to purchasing the property. He came in. He got copies of the site plan, or all the special use permit file. He got copies of the findings, the court rulings. He got had questions about the building permit. He met with our building official. I believe and then after he purchased the property, he came in and had hired an architect that was calling and meeting frequently, calling the county building official, having meetings and discussions with our commercial code reviewer. This is all going on. So the context is not a situation where somebody walked away from an approval and just got it approved and walked away. Did not happen. This is Kernershield, and obviously the sale of the property, there's a lot involved in a contract of sale. It takes some time, but the context is a situation where somebody is actively pursuing this project. And then the fact that they got the grading permit or the land disturbance permit sort of satisfied that condition. So what is a land disturbance permit? As I mentioned, we view it as a type of building permit, but so Platte County, a land disturbance permit is commonly referred to as a grading permit. Again, Mr. Barman, who became the owner, applied for and received that grading permit within the 12-month window, February 25th, 2025. The zoning order defines a land disturbance as any activity that changes the physical condition or land form, vegetation, and or hydrology, creates bare soil, or otherwise may cause erosion or sedimentation. Such activities include, but are not limited to, clearing, removal of vegetation, stripping, grading, grubbing, excavation, filling, logging, or storing materials. A land disturbance permit is a defined term. It means a permit issued by Platte County for the construction or alteration of ground improvements and structures for the control of erosion, runoff, and grading. So basically, when you get a land disturbance permit in this scenario, it allows you to site prep. You grade it, you can build the storm detentions, you can build the storm water system, you can start building parking lots, everything but the structure. And we do not view in this context that if somebody gets a land disturbance permit, that somehow is not evidence that you are proceeding with the development and therefore should be expired. It's just not the intent of that provision. In staff's opinion. Second topic I'll talk about is the appeal valid? Did it expire? So the court final ruling happened in April of 2024. The clock started ticking on the expiration clause, which would have expired in April of 25. The zoning order says, as it relates to appeals, it says such appeals shall be taken within a period of not more than 3 months and in a manner provided by the rules of the board. So basically, in April 25, the decision or the non-decision to expire the special use permit was made. So if somebody has a grievance with that decision, they have 3 months to file it. Well, this was filed in April of 2026. So basically 9 months after the 3 month appeal period has expired. The third issue we bring up is the condition. As I mentioned, special use permits have are commonly have conditions. This one had a condition that said that the use is valid for 35 years. I think it specifically says, shall be good and valid for a period of 35 years expiring on December 21st, 2056. So how do you expire a special use permit that has a condition that says it's valid for 35 years? Especially in light of the context. This was not abandoned. This was not slow walked. This was not being worked on. It was being worked on from day one. We think it's bad faith to make the argument that it had expired. And finally, the applicant has made the argument that somehow the building permit that was issued did not conform to the site plan that was approved by BZA. The standard, first of all, it doesn't, the zoning order doesn't really talk directly about that situation as it relates to site plans. It does talk about that situation as it relates to preliminary plats, like if a housing development. And the standard for that is substantial conformance. Like if you do a neighborhood, get your preliminary plat approved, it shows your whole plan, and then you come in with your final plat. The test is, well, does the final plat substantially conform to the preliminary plat? So remember, when somebody submits a site plan, they don't have the use is not permitted. So they haven't done construction. You don't have building plans done. You don't have final construction plans done. It's a conceptual plan. Now, in this case, these conceptual plans had a pretty good amount of detail in it. But the standard is substantially conforming. So we feel very strongly that the building permit, what was proposed, absolutely meets the test of substantial conformance. And I will show you. So this is the approved plan. This is what was approved by the Board of Zoning Adjustment and reaffirmed. As you can see, it shows the drive, it shows the buffers, it shows this drainage or the detention basin, the grading, shows all the proposed buildings and covered parking areas. And this is the building permit site plan. Now, granted, there was also, I didn't show you all the construction plans for each one of those buildings, but that's the site plan. So I'll go back and forth. That's the approved plan. That's the plan that was submitted with the building plan. The drive is in the same spot. The buildings are in the same spot. The detention's in the same spot. Certainly, I don't believe you can argue that it's substantially different. I think the applicant does bring up some issues with the septic system, the health department. And to get a building permit, you got to go to the health department. In this case, Mr. Barman didn't want to install his lateral lines in fear of the construction equipment damaging them. So he asked the health department, there's an office bathroom in that building. It's a small bathroom, but there is a small bathroom in there. He asked the health department to approve a 1-year holding tank. And it's a 1-year permit. After that 1 year is up, he's got to install his lateral field. That is different. I mean, and I believe he might be putting the laterals in a different spot, but that is not anything we ever get into on the site plan stage. It's an issue with the health department. Certainly is not a substantial change. Another issue that the applicant has brought up is the fire department wanted to make an analysis to make sure that their trucks are going to be able to get in to fight a fire and turning radiuses and parking. So they had asked the applicant to submit a separate plan sheet to demonstrate that. They did. It does. The fire department ultimately, signed off on everything. It did not represent a change, certainly not a substantial change. So staff's opinion that there is no material change from the site plan to the building permit. So as we go through tonight, we've made our arguments. This is not a rehearing of the case. This is an appeal of interpretation of these two items, as I understand, or we understand the application. This is not, the issues related to the BZA's approval have already been decided. The court made it very clear that this board had the authority to approve it. So we're not relitigating or rehearing the issues with this property and people's objections potentially. So in conclusion, the owner has demonstrated the intent to develop the property and has been working towards that since the court authorized the approval. The owner applied for and was granted a land disturbance permit, which in the context of this type of project is a building permit and authorized site preparation for the use. The permit was issued within the 12-month window of final approval. The applicant failed to file the appeal within the three-month window, in our opinion, and therefore, at least the portion of the application related to the expiration is not a valid appeal. And finally, the special use permit contained a condition, or the special use permit contained a condition about 35 years, which at a minimum conflicts with the expiration provision. And finally, we don't see any evidence that the site plan and the building permit represent any sort of substantial change. So with that, his staff's recommendation is that this request should be denied. I'm available for any questions you have.
Any questions of staff?
The pure fact that they didn't appeal it within the 3-month period, shouldn't that end it right there?
You know, there really isn't a mechanism for us to just, our hope is you go ahead and hear it. I mean, that is our opinion. We believe that to be the case, but I don't know what the mechanism is, just to reject an appeal. And beyond that, the appeal related to the building permit is valid, because that is within 3 months of us issuing the building permit. So,
Okay.
But yeah, I would agree that they
Okay.
could or should be rejected for that reason alone.
You know, I guess my point is we could be having this meeting every 3 months if they want to. Again, and again.
Any other questions of staff? Is the applicant present? Ooh. Please come up to either microphone and state your name and address.
My name is Lori Lewis. My address is 14201 Northwest Tiffany Park Road, Kansas City, Missouri, 64153.
Thank you. And please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Oh, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, and really thank you for taking your time for this special hearing. Please refer to your packet, Exhibit A. The building permit is completely void because under this plain and mandatory language of the zoning order, section 400-760G2, the special use permit expired automatically without revocation long before the building permit was ever printed. It explicitly states that an SUP shall expire automatically without revocation unless a building permit to effectuate its use is obtained within 12 months. The word shall in Missouri law is mandatory, leaving zero room for administrative discretion, flexibility, or staff favors. To keep the SUP alive, the developer was legally required to obtain a building permit by April 2nd, 2025. They will stand up tonight and argue that because the condition requested by staff and granted by the Board of Zoning that the SUP is valid for 35 years. Don't fall for that trap. The 35-year operational lifespan only applies after a project is legally activated. Exhibit B in your packet. To activate it, 407-60G2 commands a strict non-negotiable 12-month deadline to obtain a building permit. If that window is missed, the 35-year clock never starts and the SUP dies automatically. The 2021 condition asked by staff was that a special use be valid for 35 years. And that's in your packet too, that the language was written from the staff report. It says nothing about extending the life of the permit. Staff cannot override statutory zoning law. Exhibit C, the simplified timeline. On April 2nd, 24, the Western Division Court of Appeals published their opinion and started the official 12-month clock of expiration. Staff has a different date, which is splitting hairs, but doesn't affect the outcome of the SUP. It still died in April of 25. Exhibit D, the developer did not apply for a building permit until August 4th, 2025. By the time the developer walked into the door of the office asking for a building permit, this special use permit was 4 full months in the grave by operation of law. Staff had no legal authority to accept an application or issue a building permit, which my appeal is based on, the building permit issuance, to a dead SUP. Staff ignored the order and issued a building permit anyway on March 9, 2026, almost a full year after the SUP expired. Grading began on or about January 8th, 26, as the timestamp photo and all the homework that I gave you earlier showed. Exhibit E. This photo is what is posted at the property of the DNR operational permit for this project. Look at the effective date. It was not issued until January 20, 2026. And that was only due to a call I made to the DNR to report that the developer did not request that permit. Exhibit F, look at the grading permit obtained on February 25, 25. The developer blew past the mandatory 180-day use it or lose it window. It expired. Their hard deadline, Exhibit G, to begin grading was August 1st, 2025. The developer allowed 317 days to pass before grading began. Grading began without a permit around January 8th, 26. The photo evidence of that was submitted in my packet before. Exhibit H, I called Public Works on the temporary construction entrance that they had put in to see if they had a permit, but they didn't. I called the health department to see if they'd issued a permit, and they had not. I contacted all 3 agencies a couple weeks after the grading work started to see if they had permits. Nope. Not a single one had heard from the developer. This was over 5 months after the developer had applied for a building permit. Under Missouri Clean Water Law, it's an explicit violation of state law to clear, grade, or disturb land, especially over an acre, for a developer without a permit. This means that the developer broke ground the week of January 8th. Their activity was completely unpermitted and unlawful. Exhibit J. County issued another grading permit February 13th, 26, 36 days after the grading had begun. Under longstanding Missouri land use doctrine, the developer cannot use illegal permitted acts to satisfy local zoning deadlines. This whole deal has been a case of do it first and the county will permit it later. Let's look at the reasons why the developer missed these deadlines. Sorry, but not sorry for all that homework, but the finding of facts is all in there. The number one reason these deadlines were missed were due to issues in designing a viable, safe, code-compliant project. The exact reason the SUP expired, the exact reason SUPs expire in 12 months. It should not be this difficult to get a building permit if the infrastructure was in place to support the development. It took 7 months to get a building permit issued to the expired SUP. It was found that Water District 1 doesn't have the volume or pressure to support the fire suppression for this plan, Exhibit J. To bypass this hurdle, the developer placed critical infrastructure components on a deferred submittal. Exhibit K, they proposed an experimental fire safety by relying on a muddy, unlined, polluted runoff pond that may or may not hold water to suppress fires, with a deferred submittal for a pump that has yet to be manufactured. What could go wrong with that? It's not potable water as our zoning order required. They are going to rely on a well that has not been drilled yet or tested. Mother Nature does not guarantee a well in this area. The developer knows that, and staff permitted it to, and staff permitted it to an expired SUP. The health department voiced serious concerns when they signed off as the recorded in the staff report of 2021. The concern was that the area of the proposed lateral fields was not large enough. The developer at the time did not heed the warning. This developer didn't either. No perk test is on the record. However, a speculation of a failed perk test picture was submitted in my earlier packet. Staff approved the replacement of a permanent septic plan with a temporary raw sewage storage box that must be manually pumped. Look at the health department's own words. In Exhibit L, we do not permit temporary holding tanks, yet on that exact day, they arbitrarily turned around and issued a permit anyway. This raw human waste storage box affords no treatment. It's raw, not treated as required by the zoning order. Will staff or the health department lock the gates in 2026 once the temporary clock runs out? Or 2027, sorry. You thought you were approving a viable plan, Exhibit M, 400-390H2. A viable plan back in 2022, but the wheels on the bus came off in 2025 when the developer would not bring a 12-inch water main to the site for his fire suppression needs or a septic tank with lateral lines. He expected the water district to supply the line. The water district sells domestic water, not fire suppression, and raw sewage box is being used because the pond may or may not be too big or big enough to hold 2 hours worth of fire suppression and polluted runoff water, and is in the way of the lateral lines. This is now the plan for this high-intensity commercial retail development in our neighborhood. This is the best example of why an SUP expires in 12 months. It's to prevent messes exactly like this one. It's all documented. I couldn't make this up. Staff issued a building permit to an expired SUP, exchanging what the boards approved with subpar polluted water from a pond that more than likely will leak and freeze, and raw sewage storage box that requires manual pumping with no maintenance plans for either. Yet the pond, which will be filled by a well equipped with a 40-gallon per minute pump that is yet to be dug, that well will come nowhere near fast enough to keep up with fire suppression requirements, even if it would strike water. This is now the fire suppression experiment. This is not for the potable water you approved. The storage tank for raw sewage is no more than a bucket, and I can't say the word. You did not approve it. It doesn't matter what site plan I used, it's what the staff issued as the building permit for. It is what the developer requested. It is not what the health department issues permits for, so they said. The assistant director timestamped at 2:38 of the 12/21/21 BOZ hearing is recorded stating, if there are any changes to the site plan whatsoever, the developer must come back for approval. There was no well on the plan, no fire pump house with a fire department parking only, where there now is not the approved dumpster enclosure to help avoid rural dumping. There's no 8-foot fence condition as this board required in 2022 either. Look at the staff report for tonight's meeting. The fence is not listed as a condition. This developer did not come back for approval of the additions and subtractions. The board approved a permanent septic system that treated raw sewage because the zoning order requires treatment. The board required as a condition an 8-foot fence because the order required it for outside storage. Staff approved these substantial downgraded changes, ignoring the conditions you applied, and issued a building permit to the expired SUP. Go back to Exhibit A, 40760D7. Adequate utility drainage and other necessary improvements and facilities have been or will be provided. Since potable water is not being provided, by the developer for fire suppression and a temporary sewage box that does not treat sewage, as stated in 40760E, is this plan now a violation of the entire zoning order? This is exactly why section 40760G2 dictates an automatic expiration. The law stops developers from applying hazardous experiments held together with the glue of deferred submittals that threaten public health and safety just to get it built. Just the thought of raw sewage is gross. Fire suppression out of polluted pond, if it holds water and it's not frozen, to be filled up with a well, if it strikes water, with a pump that has yet to be manufactured. Nothing more than a Hail Mary for a leapfrog development with all expired permits when grading began in January. Finally, look at Exhibit N. I asked staff to inform me when a building permit was issued, and they didn't. March 9th, the building permit was issued to an expired SUP. On April 10th, 26, I filed my appeal against the building permit being issued, well within the 90-day requirement. Under state statute 64281, my filing commanded an automatic mandatory stay of all construction. Yet, the director openly stated in writing May 13th, 26, that the county would not issue a stop work order. At the last count, 4 buildings are already up because staff openly defied county and state statute to let a developer start building on the development with a 9-year history that started in January without a single valid permit. They will try to play you the tune of all the money has been spent, all the time has been spent. Now that the buildings are up, there is nothing you can do. You have a sworn obligation to the zoning order. Under Missouri case law, a developer who builds during an active zoning order challenge, such as my appeal, does so at their own extreme peril, financial peril. They have no vested rights. Those partially built structures are nothing more than a monument to violated county orders and state statutes. All the work that has been done since early January was started without a valid permit of any sort. Let that sink in. Not a single valid permit before starting work. A grading permit is not a substitute for a building permit. All permits expire, and this special use permit is no exception. Staff cannot revive an SUP after it has been dead for 11 months. The expired grading permit from February that the developer did not act on cannot save the SUP. The developer doesn't get 35 years to build this self-storage unit. In conclusion, the developer was informed of this appeal and chose by his own peril to continue work. Staff chose not to issue a stop work order and defied state and county law. The February 25 grading permit was not acted on in 180 days as required and expired August 1st, 2025. Grading permits only allow for the moving of dirt, not the building of structures. And look at that grading permit. There was no site plan. There was no erosion control that was submitted with it. Grading permits or land disturbance permit are not a suitable substitute for a building permit, as required by the strict language of 40760G2. The county cannot pretend that the phrase has no meaning just because of lowercase letters. A self-storage facility requires buildings to effectuate its use. It requires a valid special use permit for a building permit to be issued within 12 months. Why would you have to get a building permit if a grading permit could be a substitute? The conditions have also changed as they forgot about the 8-foot fence condition that you as a board required. Look at tonight's staff report. It's not there. The zoning order requires potable water for fire suppression and treatment for raw sewage. Regardless of what the fire and health department may Hail Mary together, our zoning order rules. The county added the word permit to special use. My exhibit B, which they're marked down on the corners, the special use was issued a 35-year as a reapproval use date, not a 3-decade plus window to build. Can you even imagine the half-built hot mess our county would be if that would have been the case? My appeal is against the building permit being issued to an expired SUP. We wouldn't have to be here tonight if this expiration without revocation rule had been followed. I ask that the staff be sworn in. I did not receive the staff report until 6/20. It was postmarked 6/17. It was not a week prior to tonight's meeting. As the BZA Rule 14 requires, I ask that the staff report be struck from the record. This board has all the power to interpret 40760 and revoke the building permit. A self-storage facility is not a matter of right use. It's a high-intensity use that requires a valid special use permit. The special use permit on this property died in April of 2025, the day the ruling was published by the Western Division of Appeals Court. I ask that this board do what's right and just by upholding the rules of Section 40760 in our zoning order, as you were sworn to do. I ask that you acknowledge that the special use permit has expired by law and revoke the building permit issued March 9th, 2026 to stop the illegal construction in our neighborhood. Make this developer follow the rules and obtain a valid SUP. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions of the speaker? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience associated with the appeal that would like to speak? Please come forward. That's it. We're at 7:18 on that. So I assume the developer is here and has a representative that may want to speak, or the developer. Yep. So please state your name and address.
My name is J.D. Moore. I'm attorney maintained by Mr. Barman. My office, 2300 Main Street, Suite 900, Kansas City, Missouri, 64108.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, self you got?
Seems like a trick question for an attorney, but yes, sir, to the extent
I understand. So you have until 7:38 approximately.
Thank you, sir. We'll try to.
Up to.
We can read the staff report, just like you all can read the staff report. We got it relatively late today, but we have had a chance to review it, and we believe it is factually, technically, and procedurally correct. The dates and times that were presented to the board this evening through the staff report do track with everything that we tracked over the last couple of years. We do agree for big ticket items. There's like 3 buckets of issues that are included in the application. Those that have been previously adjudicated all the way through, including the Missouri Court of Appeals and back down. Those issues that are absolutely time barred by the 90-day period. In some cases, months, some cases, years, depending on how they're characterized. And then the non-conformance issues are kind of in a bucket by themselves. They seem to be recent to the party, and frankly, the only things that we can see that might have originated or at least been discovered this year. to the extent they might be relevant, which we don't believe they are. Perhaps they are some consideration. As we listen to the applicant's narrative, as she went on, there were a variety of things that just are factually untrue. There was discussion of dumpsters and a well, for example, that don't exist. They're not part of the project. They won't be there. There were references to probably a half a dozen, maybe as many as 10 things that properly fall under the jurisdiction of the fire district or the health department or the water or sewage, sanitation department that aren't properly before the board. They're interesting, but what they are is evidence of what this appeal is all about. From the outset, there's a storied history here going back to 2017. I'm not going to dig into that past. Those things have been adjudicated. They are in the past. The most recent thing being the appeals court ruling. I think it was certified on April 24 of 2024. And other than that, the issues before the board are relatively straightforward. But as opposed to regurgitating precisely what you've heard, accurately stated, I'd like to speak a little bit more to on a personal or practical level on Mr. Barman's behalf. By the way, Mr. Warren is here. I'm also joined by the architect of the project, Mr. Miller. If there are any construction-related questions or design-related questions tonight, I want to make sure that we recognize that they're here with me, and we can address those questions real time if you have them. But this project did go back to 2017, and there is a long and storied and sometimes tortured past. It's been up and down through this body a few times, other planning and zoning functions, through the court system, through the Court of Appeals, and we come back to the same resolution. After April 24 of 2024, there was a year to effectuate a building permit. There's been some insinuation that maybe the developer had a lot of reasons for missing the timeline or being able or unable to comply for various reasons. And it's just not true. Mr. Barman did his due diligence before he purchased the project. He knew it was existing. He, since the very beginning, he took extraordinary measures to satisfy each and every P&Z requirement for the project, followed the codes, the special use conditions that were put in place. He ensured a proper design, proper construction. He was in constant communication with the P&Z officials, and he wanted to coordinate carefully with every county agency that was involved because he knew the tortured past. He knew the aggressive history from the applicant. It started early. It happened often. It was repeated year after year after year. Now we've had a break, and we're back to the same tactics. But specifically, a couple of issues are on point here tonight. One is a tolling issue that there hasn't been a lot made out of, and when the timeline might have started. I think it's been conceded now. It was in play earlier in the processes, but the deadline to get some type of building permit would have been approximately April 24 of 2025. One was received in February of 2025. Mr. Barman worked closely with staff, planning zone officials, to ensure his understanding was correct, that the grading permit satisfied his obligation to receive a permit in furtherance of the construction project, in furtherance of the special use. And that's exactly what he relied on. And he moved forward relying on that. So he didn't sleep on his rights. He didn't try to avoid the circumstance. He didn't try to dodge or hurry up and try to hide things from the planning and zoning officials or the inspectors. He did precisely what he was told to do, what he was asked to do. And he did it every time. He never asked for special treatment. He wanted to make sure he crossed every T and dotted every I, which is what he did. At least that's what he believed he did. He relied on the representations from qualified professionals. He believed he did so, and he had the right to do so. Now, the applicant's motive may have changed over the years. I don't know that. I wasn't here in the beginning of this matter, but the continued efforts, as evidenced here tonight, they've devolved into a witch hunt, an obsession, if you will. I mean, these recent complaints of nonconformance were just a pretext to bring the same arguments that we've been hearing, or that Mr. Barman at least has been hearing since 2017 or shortly thereafter. And in fact, it's going so far on a personal level, Mr. Barman feels like this planning and zoning process, this BZA process, this legal process is being weaponized against it. It's as if nothing will stop the applicant until there's a stop work order in place on this project. It is moving along quickly. There are buildings coming out of the ground. They are doing so in compliance with all the direction from the planning and zoning officials, in compliance with every department that's involved, in compliance with everything that's been asked of them by the county or anyone else, the state. Some of the most recent complaints they go past this board, applicant as complaints to the DNR, MoDOT, anybody that'll listen. And it stacks up and stacks up for no good reason and without support. Well, obviously there are civil issues that could come from that. We feel like there's harassment, interference with business relationships, those things. That's not for this board to decide. That's something that I have been retained to embrace and look into. But what we would like to accomplish tonight is just an understanding. Mr. Barman has been a good citizen. He lives close to this project. He lives and works with most of these people and has an ongoing relationship with planning and zoning and hopes to continue so. He's a developer. Well, that may be considered a dirty word, but it shouldn't be. He's been a responsible citizen. He creates jobs. He brings progress and development to Platte County, and he's proud to do so. But he recognizes that if there is a true non-compliance issue, it's his obligation to satisfy the requirements that are asked of him. He never tries to dodge that responsibility and never will. It is his belief that he is in compliance. It is his belief that staff's report accurately relays the information that's necessary to the board. It is a belief that this is nothing more than a harassment exercise, something in furtherance of an abusive process, if you will. Obviously, he'll show up, he'll respond, he'll answer any questions, he'll do anything that's requested of him. But primarily, what he'd like to do is find a way to bring a peaceful resolution so that he can put these things behind him and build his project. I know that I rambled on some things. I didn't want to repeat or attack everything that the applicant said. I believe that the board has enough experience that they can ferret through those things and understand what was either your jurisdiction or not. We could turn this into a personal back and forth, but that's not our goal here tonight. I wanted to set the stage and speak on Mr. Barman's behalf. He may have other remarks he'd like to make, but unless there's questions for me, we would just ratify the staff report, and we would ask that this application be denied. In fact, going to a question from Mr. Furbeck earlier, we were somewhat surprised that it was allowed to move forward, but I understand there may be a difficulty in the mechanism to stop a frivolous and clearly timed out application for appeal. So here we are. We'll show up every time we need to, and we'll answer any questions you guys have for us.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker?
I don't have any.
Thank you. So is there anyone else in the audience to speak or against the application? Please step to the microphone, please. Yep. So
My name's
we're,
Martin Mills. I live at 8790 Northwest Highway in Parkville, Missouri, 64153.
please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? So we'll give you a couple minutes here. We're already kind of past our deadline.
Questions for you guys, and I take offense to somebody saying that we're harassing them when I spent my first day in a meeting regarding this 1 month after my daughter passed away. So I don't want to hear that. I just have two questions for you guys. I know this all comes down to whether or not a grading permit is a building permit. Is the grading permit ever published on the county website?
Grading permits are not published on the website. What's that?
Application available online.
Is when it's approved, is it posted on the website? I can answer that. It's no.
No.
Is a building
It's not a
permit-
requirement to
is a building
publish
permit-
building permits on the
It's a
county
building
website.
permit posted on your county website, absolutely. So to me, it's not even close to being the same thing. Your building permit's run, that's how I found it. You want me to build up on my phone and show you?
Application or
No,
actual,
the
like,
approval, it's out there on your website. The building permit is out there. I can go look it up today.
oh, you're talking about the activity report thing? Yeah. Yes,
But
I
you'll
think,
never find-
land
you'll
disturbance
never find a
permits
land-
would
you'll
also
never
show up
find a
there now.
land use permit on there, I guarantee you. So they're not the same thing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So I think we're past our time limits. Is there any questions of staff?
We have the appeals court judgment.
Did we get put in the record?
I didn't see it here in
The appeals court, judgment,
Requested that be digital, it was available online.
Was it?
Yeah, digital application or the digital file of that whole. Since
Are you-
2021.
do you have a question about it? I mean, I know a little bit.
I haven't had an opportunity to read that specifically, not, you know what I'm saying? I'm just curious to see what exact wording.
It was reaffirming that the BZA's approval was valid. And I think the main juxt of the controversy at the time, the argument was that the BZA, this board interpretation of the minimum infrastructure requirements, and the judge made it clear that the BZA had the authority to interpret their own codes.
Their discretion, yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments? So it's a little bit of a unique scenario. So if we're gonna have a motion, it's gonna be to grant the appeal as submitted. Because we're making motions in the positive.
Motion needs to be to grant the appeal as submitted. And you vote yes, that means that you agree with the appeal. If you vote no, you reject the appeal. Everybody understands that. Anybody have any questions about that? I don't know what-
Do you have any questions, Brian? You all right where we're at? We're not in any rush, so take your time.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So I would be awaiting on a motion of the appeal.
So I'm confused here. So somebody's gonna have to have a motion, correct?
It's going to be in the positive to grant the appeal.
To grant the appeal, and then we either vote yes or no on the appeal.
Correct. So voting yes would mean you're agreeing with the appeal. Vote, or vote no would be you're not agreeing with the appeal.
You vote yes, you agree with, this is Lewis's appeal.
Right,
and
right, right.
if
So
you vote no, you-
somebody's gonna have to come up with this. We're gonna have to motion that we take
We
the
motion to
appeal
the positive.
for the positive,
Yeah.
and then if we disagree with it, then you gotta go no.
That's
So
where you- yeah.
literally, let's pretend just for argument's sake that I don't want it. I can still motion for it and then,
Yes,
and then vote against it.
you still make the motion, doesn't mean you have to vote with the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, motion to not.
Right. All right. So I will motion that we go forward with the appeal.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Those in favor of granting the appeals, Those opposed? 4-0, the appeal would not pass. Our next item agenda is approval of minutes. I think we're all here. Does anybody have any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve as
We have
submitted.
a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So what's our last item here? Other business. When's our next meeting?
August 5th, at 6 PM in this room. I don't know that we have any application. There might be one. So
Be easy.
that's,
Thank you.
And if there's no agenda items, then we won't have a meeting.
yeah, we don't have any.
Yeah, on that as far as that goes. So, okay, I think we can stand adjourned. Thank you for being here.
Do you have
Welcome.
a couple of questions?
Sure. Or off the record. Yep. Yep.
Yes, sir.
If typically I'm used to a lot of these boards that there would be.
We're adjourned, right?
Yep, we are adjourned.
All in favor, aye.
And soon we're almost going to have a minute break.